Okay, so now we're going to look at putting this all together and doing steps to solving equations. So we're going to start with anytime that you have a fraction, let's get rid of the fractions. Let's get rid of the fractions and any decimals. So you want to clear the fractions. Or decimals. Then you want to remove the parentheses. So use the distributive property to remove the parentheses. So this is going to be basically your least common multiple, well, your least common denominator here. This is going to be using your distributive property. Then you're going to combine like terms on the same side of the equation. So when they're on the same side of the equation, basically you're just simplifying. Then you want to combine like terms on opposite sides. That's the addition property. And then you are going to isolate the variable. And that's going to be using your multiplication. When you isolate, or after you isolate, you always want to check your solution. Make sure that it makes sense. You may have messed up somewhere. Alright, so I'm going to go through a few of these with you. So for this one I have negative 6x plus 4 is equal to a negative 4 times, that's a negative, I'm sorry, 4 times 2x plus a 3. There's no fraction, there's no decimal, so, but there is a parentheses here, so I am going to distribute this. So I'm going to have negative 4 times 2, which is a negative 8x, negative 4 times 3, which is a negative 12, and just bring down everything else. So now I need to combine like terms on the opposite sides. So I am going to combine the 8x and the 6x. So I am going to add the 8x here. When I add, so negative 6x plus an 8x is a 2x. Now I'm going to combine the 4 and the negative 12. So I am going to subtract a 4 here. So I'm going to have a 2x is going to be equal to a negative 12 minus a 4, which is a negative 16. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to have an x is going to be equal to negative 16 divided by 2, which is a negative 8. You want to make sure it's balanced, so you would plug a negative 8 in both places and just make sure that it's going to be equal. Alright, let's look at this one. Number 2. Sorry. Number 2. I've got 4 times 2x minus 1 minus a 2 times 3x plus a 2 is equal to a 1. So, parentheses. So I'm going to multiply here. So 4 times 2x is an 8x. 4 times negative 1 is a negative 4. I'm going to do the same thing here. So negative 2 times 3x is a negative 6x. Negative 2 times a positive 2 is a negative 4. Now I'm going to combine like terms on the same side of the equation. So I've got 8x minus a 6x, which is a 2x. I've got this negative 4 minus a 4 here, so negative 4 minus a 4 is going to be a negative 8. So I'm going to have a 2x minus an 8 is equal to a 1. So now I'm going to go across that equal sign. So I'm going to add the 8. So what I'll be left with over here is the 2x. So I'll have 2x is going to be equal to a 9. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to have x is going to be equal to a 9 halves. And that's okay to have a fraction. Alright, what about this one? I've got 7 minus a 2 times an x plus a 1 is equal to an 8 plus an x. So, same thing, distributive property. So I'm going to say negative 2 times x, which is a negative 2x. Negative 2 times 1, which is a negative 2. And then I'm going to bring down everything else. Okay, what did I miss? What did I have in the very beginning here? I had the 7, so I need to also bring that down up front. I'm going to combine like terms on the same side. So I'm going to have 7 minus a 2. Okay, it's going to be a 5. Now I'm going to combine like terms on opposite sides of the equation. So I am going to subtract this x here. So when I do that, I'm going to have a 5 minus a 2x minus an x, which is a minus 3x. It's equal to an 8. I'm going to subtract my 5. So now I'm going to bring down the negative 3x. So I'm going to have a negative 3x is going to be equal to 8 minus a 5, which is a positive 3. Still not finished, so I need to divide both sides by negative 3. So I'm going to have x is going to be equal to a negative 1. Okay. Alright, so here I've got some fractions. I'm going to have some fractions on these. So I've got 2/3 x plus a 1/3 is equal to a negative 7/3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the fraction. So I'm going to multiply by the common denominator. The common denominator here is going to be a 3. So that means I'm going to multiply every little piece by a 3. So I'm going to have a 2x plus a 1 is going to be equal to a negative 7. What I'm doing is I'm multiplying by 3 over a 1. Maybe that'll help a little bit to see that. I'm multiplying by 3 over a 1. So now I'll combine like terms on opposite sides. So I'll subtract a 1 here. So I'll have a 2x is going to be equal to negative 7 minus a 1, which is a negative 8. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So I will have x is going to be equal to a negative 4. Alright, let's look at this one. I've got 7 over 10. X minus a 1/5 is going to be equal to 4. So the common denominator this is a 4 over a 1. So the common denominator here between 10, 5, and 1 is going to be a 10. So that means I'm gonna write this one a little bit different. So I'm gonna multiply everything by 10, the whole thing. So I'm gonna say 10 over 1 times 7 over 10 x. 10 over 1 times 1/5. 10 over a 1 times 4 over a 1. So the 10s will go away, so I'll be left with 7x. 5 goes into 10 2 times, so I'm going to say 2 times 1, which is going to be a negative 2 here. And then 10 times 4 is a 40. So that made the denominator go away. So now I want to combine like terms on opposite sides of the equation. So I'm going to add a 2 to both sides. So I'm going to have a 7x is going to be equal to a 42. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 7. So I'm going to have x is going to be equal to a 6. Alright, let me look at this one. I want you to take a minute and try to do this one for me. So, same thing, I want to multiply everything by 2, or what can I do right here first before I do anything? 3x minus a 2x is a 1x, right? So then now I want to multiply everything by a 2. So when I multiply, this will be 2 times this whole thing, x plus 1 over 2. And then I'm going to multiply that 2 times that x like that. So what happens to the 2's? They go away, so I'll be left with x plus 1 is going to be equal to a 2x. Combine like terms on opposite sides, so I will subtract an x here. So I'll be left with 1 is going to be equal to an x. So x is going to be equal to a 1. Now let's look at this one. So for this one, I've got 2x over 3 plus a 1/4 is equal to a negative x over 2 minus a 2/3. So I need to find the common denominator here in between all of these. So it would be the common denominator between 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. It would be a 12. So I'm going to multiply everything by a 12. So remember, I'm multiplying by 12 over 1. So this will be 12 over 1 times 2x over 3 plus 12 over 1 times 1/4 is equal to 12 over 1 times a negative x over 2. 12 over 1 times 2/3. Okay, so 3 goes into 12 4 times, so I'm going to say 4 times 2x, which is an 8x. 4 goes into 12 3 times, so this will be a plus of 3. 2 goes into 12 6 times. 6 times a negative x, this will be a negative 6x. 3 goes into 12 4 times, so 4 times 2 is going to be a negative 8. Now I'll combine like terms on opposite sides, so I am going to add my 6x here. So I'll have 8x plus a 6x, which is going to be a 14x. Subtract my 3. So I'm going to have a 14x. It's going to be equal to a negative 8 minus a 3, which is going to be a negative 11. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 14. So I will have 14x over 14, which is just an x. It's going to be equal to a negative 11 over 14. Alright, so that's putting it all together. So if you have any questions about anything, let me know. Y'all have a good day.